All right, well, the bra's off, so are you ready to get this started?
The bra is off?
Yeah, man. It's a good thing we're recording remotely.
Not together right now? Yeah.
No, the bra's off.
Because I don't know what that would change, but...
I mean, I wouldn't hang around you without a bra on. Anyway, welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts, Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Shane, what's going on in your world?
Under the weather, working, moving stuff to the new house. I wanted you to know you were right about how to pronounce sepia, and also that V for Vendetta was a pretty damn good movie.
I love it when I'm right. Really, I do.
I know. That's why I tell you these things.
Oh, you're not even going to ask what's going on in my world? How very fucking rude of you.
I said I was under the weather. I've not had any medicine yet today. It's really starting to wear on me. Plus, I've had headphones on for like 8 hours already today. What's going on in your world, Rayburn?
Well, another season is under my belt. I'm thankful people are still giving a shit about my musical opinions. So I'm pretty damn good.
Good. Let's roll the intro. So your song list for the week was uplifting songs?
Yeah, uplifting songs to lift your spirits. I wasn't exactly sure what direction to go with this list, but I'm going to let you start it because I'm very curious to know what's first on your list.
All right, well, I couldn't narrow it down, so I'm 20 again. What are you going to do?
You are ridiculous.
It's kind of surprising if you think about it. I'm not thought of as the happiest person in the world, but 20 uplifting songs, what do you know? First up is Don't Give In by Third Eye Blind. While great all around, it's the chorus of this one which speaks loudest to me. The message is powerful and clear. Giving up on what doesn't work isn't giving up on yourself. It's actually the opposite. So let the dead end shit go and open yourself up to something new. Example, a much younger me gave up going to college in order to write books. And guess how often I regret that decision? It's yet to happen. And then my second is Lifeline by Angels and Airwaves. Almost without fail, I end up feeling warm and forgiving after I've been hurt by someone. So I relate deeply to this song. And I'm uplifted by it when I realize that I didn't write it. When I accept that many people probably have lifelines to offer me. And you know my stupid ass needs to be forgiven here and there. It's a soothing notion, believing that forgiveness eventually awaits me. What's your first pick?
Well, the direction that I went in for this list is basically any song that just gave me a feeling of weightlessness and carefreeness. They're not necessarily tied with memories, but I did realize a lot of them are tied to movies. So first on my list is Send Me On My Way by Rusted Root. I watched Matilda at a very young age, and this song plays a really important role in a scene where she kind of learns to do for herself and realizes that that's when she's the most happiest. So it always just kind of gave me a good feeling. It is also featured in the Party of Five series. So
totally thought I didn't know that song, and then you mentioned Matilda, and now it is stuck in my head.
There you go. You're welcome. What's next on your list?
Paper Thin Hymn by Amberlin. My youngest sister says this song makes her think of riding around in my car back in our younger days. And knowing someone's memory associates me with such a great song will forever make me feel better about being who I am. And my second pick is Satellite by P.O.D. I really dig The Moon, for those who don't know. And this song's been a through line of happy times for my relationship to the moon. I can remember playing it while walking under the full moon's light back in the trailer park days when my weight was nearing its lowest. I remember hearing it while working out in the windowed gym of an ex's apartment complex the night she got topless in the hot tub, etc. Big, etc. I also remember it playing in the car just before dropping my son off at daycare, where he loves spotting the day moon when getting out of my vehicle. This keeps me reminded that there's always something wondrous in store so long as I have music and the moon.
Next on my list, yet again, from another movie, it's Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams. The movie that I associate it with is, in fact, Shane, can you guess?
Footloose.
Footloose. It is one of those that you just hear it and you just can't help but tap your feet. So that's why it makes my list. This also could have been a list of songs that make me want to dance. So,
Double time. I see how you do.
Yeah. What's next on your list?
That Song by Big Wreck. This song was my first recommendation when we started the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I still consider it to be one of the greatest songs in existence. Rather than share a story about who this track actually reminds me of, let me share something accidentally hilarious, as part of this tune deals with mistaken identity. I'd been exchanging messages online with someone back in the MySpace days, someone I'd only seen in pictures outside of a few aged interactions. Anyway, I was at a bar one night and thought I saw her. I was on a double date with my friend though, so I didn't approach her. We just silently flirted across the bar all night. It was only when I actually met up with her a week or so later that I realized she was not the girl at the bar. The girl at the bar was so much cuter too. I still kick myself for not making sure while I was still at the bar, you know?
Yeah.
Though I imagine that interaction would have come with its own brand of hilarity. Hey stranger, wasn't expecting to run into you here tonight. I take it you're no longer feeling under the weather? She'd have been like, guy, you were kind of cute till you opened your mouth. And then Bonfire Heart by James Blunt. The wife and I once left a very financially stable life in the big city for a simpler existence in a middle-of-nowhere suburb. We continued planning events on occasion and seeing the handful of people who've always been staples in our lives. But what's rarely talked about is just how little socializing I did once I began working from home as my own boss, trying to live exclusively on sales for my writing. Mm-hmm. I'd take ages to respond to texts, almost never made first contact, and didn't answer the phone for anyone but Megan and my mom.
Mm-hmm. Can confirm all of these things.
Yes, and those of you who just went through the pandemic social distancing know how unhealthy that sort of existence can be if you aren't ready to cope. This song was a friend to me for the duration of that unique year and keeps me reminded of how lucky I am to have Megan in my life.
Yeah, little did everyone know you and your wife were doing the pandemic thing before it was cool, you know?
Yeah, it's my existence, you know? It just
keeps people away.
It's better than some of the jobs I've had.
Yeah.
They're just a beating sometimes.
Oh, yeah, no, I get you. All right, next on my list is Lavian Rose by Louis Armstrong, originally done by Edith Piaf. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a French singer. This is just one of those songs that make you feel all warm and fuzzy, especially when listening to it in a lover's arms as you rock slowly back and forth to the music. So, It's a good one. It's also in Wall-E.
I wonder why the bra's off.
Oh, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I doubt it.
You are most definitely right, sir.
Tuesday evening, I doubt it.
All right, you make us sound old. Can we move on to what's next on your list, please?
Yeah, it's I Can Make You Feel Young Again by Copeland.
Wow, that was perfect.
Yeah, good timing. Let me start by pointing out that this video, like many by this group, cracked me in half. Once I'd composed myself, I began reflecting on the value of a happy but short life over that of a long but unhappy one. My previous employer had spent years trying to tell me how pointless jealousy was, and in that moment where I'd finished the video, I began to understand what he meant. We don't read books with the intention of never reading another, or stopping others from reading it too. The same should be true of our experiences with other humans. We get so caught up in maintaining these social structures which were handed down to us that we forget to question their necessity. As a result, we lose the sense of wonder which comes from falling in fresh love or even lust. And I don't want to add to that sad refrain of our species. I want to continue being that person who can help you feel passionately renewed. And no, Rayburn, I'm not talking to you directly.
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
In a way, just not in that physical way.
And who is making jokes about incest now?
I'm just trying to head them off. That's what I'm doing. And then we've got Miss Sweeney by Weezer. I live in a mess of unrealistic fantasies, routinely playing out in my head in an effort to keep me sane. This song's a perfect example of as much. Once hated damn near everything about a job I had to keep in order to pay the bills, and I made the best of a bad situation by romanticizing every interaction had with a particular coworker. It helped me to continually feel alive in what was otherwise a daily overdose of misery. I'd play imagined conversations out in my head and even listen to this song on the way home after the worst days. I have a feeling I'm not alone in having these sentiments to share either. Plenty of us probably treasure certain fantasies over parts of our own limited realities. No shame for this guy.
Now, did Mrs. Sweeney ever know that you played out these fantasies in your head?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I've been told that I'm not obvious. I feel like I'm super obvious about things, but maybe I'm not. And it's probably because, hey, I'm a married dude. You know,
yeah.
it's just something to get you through the day. That's what it was.
All right. Okay. Well, next on my list is Roar by Katy Perry. Yes, I know how basic this sounds, and I'm not making any excuses for it.
I dig it.
Well, thank you. This is just one of those songs that has a very driving direction. It crescendos upward, and you feel a sense of release, if you would, when you hear it.
Yeah, I can agree.
All right.
I don't know what to add. It's Katy Perry, you know.
It is.
That's a good thing, just to clarify.
I figured that when you added on after the release comment. I figured it was a good thing.
She's definitely a release. So next up for me is The Time and Place by Mike and the Mechanics. Many years ago, I was way beyond taken with a friend of a fling, and every time that girl's friend and I began coming closer to the breathtaking flame, said fling was there to overshare, trying to convince her friend that I was the type to use them and lose them. Her friend secretly mistrusted the input, but I could tell that it was putting a great deal of strain on their relationship. That crush and I also had some major ideological differences, which kept me from pursuing her. Point is that sometimes you find strong feelings in the most inopportune places. The unpredictable nature of what the future holds can be uplifting. You could open a door today and meet the love of your life. I used to see this girl's face and immediately picture her crying happy tears in a wedding dress. She once admitted that she couldn't stop imagining what our kids would look like. Bear in mind that she and I barely knew each other. Shit like this leaves me thinking that there really could be alternate realities within the continuum, and I'm always happier when considering that she and I have our time and place, even if it's in another lifetime.
Now I'm sitting here thinking of all the possibilities throughout my life, and I'm fixing to have an existential crisis, so thank you so much for that, Shane.
No, I think you get to a place where if you think on it long enough, you won't fixate. You'll end up happy for what you have.
Oh, yeah.
There's some little thing about your life that if you could go back and change what you've done, you wouldn't have that one little thing that you absolutely love. And I don't know, that keeps shit in perspective.
This is going to get deep, and I apologize for this, but is there anything that you regret?
Yeah, I should clarify actually that when we were doing the ridiculous jams, you asked me a question and I kind of overshot what you were trying to ask me for the sake of a joke.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I regret. I regret hurting people, not doing the best that I could for certain people. For your selfish reasons, you do these things.
But if you hadn't made those mistakes, you wouldn't have come to the realization and a better person for said mistakes. So is it really something that you regret? Well,
no, it's not I don't think of it as regret like I would actually go back in a time machine and change that thing.
Okay.
And that's what I was trying to get at with you with regard to your existential crisis you're talking about. I don't think that you really would. Most of us would get close to that time machine and probably not step into it unless it was to relive things that we loved about our lives.
Now, usually what I tell people is I'm very happy with the person that I am today. Not a lot of people can rest easy knowing the type of person that they are. And I'm obviously a firm believer that the decisions that I made created this person that I accept today. So if I'm okay with me, that's all that should really matter.
I won't disagree.
Okay.
I think that's a really good place to be. It's a really good coping mechanism to have, too, as you go through life. My second pick here was Stumbling West by Thrice. a song which will forever remind me of leaving Idaho in the summer of 2020. That trip was a very big deal for me, and it was a lot harder to leave than it had ever been before, having seen my wife and son in the place where I feel most at home. I just wanted to throw stones into the Clearwater River with Taylor and kiss Megan every day and night within the mountain air until death left me unable to choose anything else. But life's a lot of compromise if you've decided to care for anyone other than yourself. Mm-hmm. So it was that we eventually headed home, but it will never escape my mind that at least we got to enjoy said existence for a time. And in the end, I'm far happier for choosing to be wherever they are.
Yeah.
My loved ones are the only thing with power enough to rival my love of the mountains. And there's a lot of love I've known in the DFW area, you know.
I find myself constantly fighting not to venture off away from family. That doesn't mean that I love them any less. It's just one of those things that you always wonder what your life could be like in those short-term places that make you so happy.
It's fucking hot here, you know?
It is.
We're sitting in it right now, the thick of it. It's just too much sometimes.
I have standing water in my backyard and mosquitoes have taken my dog away. I mean, you know.
Yep.
Final pick is Build Me Up Buttercup by the Foundations. Yes, this is a goofy pick. It's still good. When you think about it, when it's not on the radio, you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of a goofy song. But then when you hear it, you can't fight the urge for it to put you in a little bit of a bouncy mood, you know?
It's a throwback to a simpler time, too, I think.
Yeah.
It's maybe not simpler in certain ways.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say better.
Yeah.
Simpler, probably. Sometimes simplicity can be nice anyway. Shall we talk about some music?
Yeah, let's talk about more music. Let's get into our 5 bands that we drew at random for our Battle of the Bands for Season 4.
Which we've covered in the past already in Seasons 1 through 3.
All right, the first artist that we covered was The Clash, and the album that we covered was Cut the Crap from 1985. This was my second to last.
I agree.
I gave it 3 5s out of 12 tracks.
Same.
Really?
Yeah.
My top track was North and South.
Same.
Dude, you gotta be fucking shitting me. All right, We're gonna fuck this up. And my bottom track was Play to Win.
Dictator.
Dang it. We got so close. All right, what I want to say about this album, this is a more beat-driven album than previously covered albums. It's very 80s synth. Less punk, but still stays true to the brand. And it also had a few reggae-inspired tracks that we didn't get a whole lot of when we covered The Clash originally in a past episode.
Man, I felt like it was a bunch of reggae, but that's me.
Your Sandinista album?
Yeah, and even was my top track by that group.
I don't know how you're blanking. You've told me ever since we covered The Clash the first time that they've been fresh in your mind.
I have. I listened to them a lot. Mm. It's wild.
But what did you think of this album?
I thought there was a lot wrong with it. The mixing choices, the 80s action movie vibes, and the almost complete absence of certain members' contributions. But it's not the dumpster fire some have made it out to be. The writing and performances are pretty solid. I could definitely see why this was the end of the road, though. Mm-hmm. Unique, but not in a way I enjoy for the most part.
All right. Next artist that we covered was Ingrid Michaelson and her Be Okay album from 2008. This was my top album.
This was my bottom album.
I gave it 9 5s out of 11 tracks.
1.
My top track was Keep Breathing.
There we do agree.
I loved the cello in that song.
Yeah.
And my bottom track was Over the Rainbow.
Lady in Spain.
I thought Over the Rainbow was a poor cover of the original. I just didn't think it was as good.
I don't know that I minded it too much. Actually, I don't think I minded any of this too much, but I'm going to let you say what you thought.
All right. For me, this was definitely low budget. It focuses on the simplicities of vocals and a simple acoustic style. I actually really enjoyed this album. This might also have something to do with this album was my introduction to Ingrid Michaelson in college. Simple but good and very, very quirky.
All right. I wrote that these are surprisingly high quality recordings for a B-side, live, and cover compilation. And Ingrid's voice is both gorgeous and skilled. All sounds are extremely clean and spaced well in the mix. Unfortunately, I'm dulled by almost all of these melodies. Okay. Close, but only a single cigar and a repetitious one at that. I mean, it's all 4s outside of the single 5.
I listened to this album while waiting for my plane, so maybe I was in some sort of mood.
Maybe so.
But I just think this is good. I would say this is good coffee table music. Do you understand what I mean by that?
I do. Okay. I think this will appeal. Like I've said before about Ingrid Michaelson, I think it will appeal in a big way to a lot of people in ways that it's just not appealing to me.
All right.
I need a little bit more complexity in this particular kind of music.
Do not, lest we forget what is it, Stranger Sounds album?
Yes, songs.
Yeah, Stranger Songs. I always fuck that up. Amazing album. So that's probably more your style of Ingrid Michaelson, and that was her latest contribution. So
a little bit more stuff going on in the background. Mm-hmm. Adding to the layering that did it for me. And again, she has a beautiful sound. So mm-hmm. I'm not knocking it in any way. It's just not always for me. What about our third album out of the 5 that we're going to talk about right here?
Our third album that we covered was by Miss Britney Spears. This is her Circus album from 2008. This was my middle album.
This was actually my runner-up.
Oh. I gave it 6 5s out of 13 tracks.
Same.
My top track was Womanizer.
Shattered Glass.
My runner-up for top track I wanted to mention here, it was Out From Under. I really enjoyed that as well.
That's a good one, too. I think I had trouble choosing between those two.
And my bottom track was Mannequin.
Poppy. Although she says Papa in the song.
I'm pretty sure I gave that one a 5, but that's one of the more goofier ones, kind of like Space Cowboy. And
yes, it is.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I gave that one a 2.
We know my style. Anyway, this album was club party anthem album with a few slowed down emotional tracks, very high energy, which is what we have come to expect from Miss Britney Spears. Club pop, fun, reminiscent of a more playful earlier Britney, almost as if it was Hit Me Baby One More Time Britney.
Okay. Well, I wrote that this CD has no business being as good as it is. If it weren't for some serious lyrical cheese in spots, this would have garnered way more 5s. It's mostly a sexy club spin, but also has some touching songs peppered throughout. Mm-hmm. Her vocal work isn't as forcefully breathy, and the producers went fucking hard on this disc.
Yep.
Excellent work.
Yeah, good job, Miss Spears. Speaking of, she just recently went on Instagram and went into this big long spiel about how rocks have feelings.
Okay. I can't go down to Britney Spears, what's going on in her personal life.
I know.
I can't do it. I don't have the energy.
I cannot stop following her on Instagram. I want to, but there's just something, like, it's like watching a car crash. Like, you don't want to look, but then again, you can't look away. I don't know.
I make it a point to not look at car crashes. I'm that guy.
Okay. Well, good for you.
I just wish people would drive. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Are we ready to take a little break?
Yes, ma'am. Hit me with a song recommendation, Raven.
All right, my song recommendation for this week is As the World Caves In. This is a cover done by Sarah Cawthron, originally done by Matt Maltese. While the original is good, there's something about Sarah's vocals that she covered this song and it was posted all over TikTok, and people are losing their goddamn minds, and I am definitely one of them. Her voice is magical, and if you haven't heard it, I would definitely give it a listen.
Tune in, weekly listeners, for TikTok updates. In case you're not a TikTok person, Raven's got you covered.
I got you covered. Don't worry, y'all.
My recommendation is Ghost Myself by Diamante. I think that's how you say it. It's a Diamante.
Can't help you there.
It's like maybe Diamante.
It's the blind leading the blind at this point.
Yeah. This is a great pop metal track from a group I'm slowly starting to like more and more. Imagine taking Evanescence, Within Temptation, Halsey, and In This Moment and blending them in a computer program. This group's music would be the result.
I am on the Bo Burnham Inside on Netflix obsession currently. Watching Bo start out this Netflix special inside his home. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's the shed outside of his home. And slowly watch him progress into artful depression is something that he has dug deep down into my soul and has made a comfy little place inside of it. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. If you're going into it expecting something lighthearted and fun, know that you're not going to get it, and you will probably be dealing with the effects of watching it for weeks to come.
Well, you sold that.
The songs are very, very good, but he's so smart and artful and very, very vulnerable in this special. So it's definitely my shit.
I feel you. I'd be a little worried to watch it at this point in my life, but I might.
You have been warned, sir. You've been warned. You got any plugs?
Yes, I do. I wanted to share a Thai curry sauce recipe. I threatened to do it a while back, so now I'm going to do it. Just like with the Indian food, cube chicken and cook it with a bit of olive oil and a decent amount of Fiesta brand curry powder. Get a whole can of coconut milk in the pan. I use a wok, by the way, just easier. Add half a can of sliced potatoes that have been drained, half a can of sliced carrots that have been drained as well. And now it's just adding the other ingredients and letting that all simmer for about 15 minutes. Toss in 3 tablespoons of Thai Kitchen's red curry paste, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of sriracha, and a teaspoon of smooth peanut butter. You'll serve that with basmati or jasmine rice. Worth knowing that this is a medium to mildly spiced recipe. You can add more or less sriracha to vary your spice level, and the peanut butter serves as a thickening agent, so use more or less of that depending on how soupy you like your Thai curries to be. Might want to salt this to your preferred taste as well. And that's all you've got from your resident chef here.
I swear to Bob, I'm going to start a Shane's Curry Corner for social media.
Well, I like to cook all kinds of things. I'm just sharing this stuff because I don't think it's cooked in the majority of kitchens that
it's definitely not cooked in mine.
Us.
We have talked about I haven't had Indian food, and I know you plan to remedy that at some point. When you're in your new house, I demand you cook for me.
Well, the only strange thing in that entire recipe that I just gave was
peanut butter?
No, it was the Thai Kitchen's red curry paste, but you can find that at Walmart, at Kroger. So it's very easy if you're shopping on the app. Just look it up and add it to the cart. You're good to go.
And this message is brought to you by Shane's Curry Corner. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, let's talk about more music.
All right, let's move on to the next artist that we covered in our Battle of the Bands. The artist that we covered was Radiohead and their A Moon-Shaped Pool album.
Uh-oh. It's Radiohead.
Oh, I know it's Radiohead. I'm not scared if you're not.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
So like I was saying, this is their album from 2016. This was my bottom album.
This was my middle album.
I gave it 1.5 out of 11 tracks.
It got 4 from me.
My top track was Burn the Witch.
Deck's Dark, even though I did give Burn the Witch a 5.
And my bottom track was Full Stop.
The Tinker Tailor track, hands down.
For me, this album was slow and sleepy, what I might like to fall asleep to. Daydreamy and dark at times. Spacey, but very, very pretty compositions.
The group was definitely onto something with this album's moodiness and sound structure. It's a gorgeous and spacey listen. Think Pumpkins meet the Black Keys. My main gripe here is that an artful focus on building a strong wall of sound keeps the melodies from changing much over the course of a single track. Soft, weighty, and memorable. Cure fans will probably love this album. And yet, you're the Cure fan that stands in opposition to that.
I am. When I gave 1-2, other than that, nothing got less than a 3. We already know my 5s are a little bit harder to come by. This wasn't, I would say, aside from Kid A and even Pablo Honey, this was on the up and up from Radiohead.
It felt to me like they were moving back into the realm of structure that's appealing.
Way less experimental nonsense.
It was still amazingly experimental in a lot of places. I loved the wall of sound that they made. In fact, I would go as far as to say that the majority of this was just a gorgeous, gorgeous listen. It's just that I'm looking for a certain type of hook and predictability in the songs. And you know me, I'm a sucker for that sort of pop sensibility thing.
Yes, I'm well aware.
It's more here than it was in the end of those Radiohead albums that we covered before. So I have a definite appreciation for this CD.
I definitely take back... Radiohead has redeemed themselves a little bit in my eyes with this album, because I was expecting a lot more of the strange experimental nonsense. Whereas, like you said, this was experimental, but it was a good example of experimental music.
Yeah. What about the next album?
Next album that we covered was by Kaleo. The album that we covered was Surface Sounds from 2021. This was my runner-up.
This was my top album.
I gave it 5 5s out of 11 tracks.
10.
Ooh.
It was very close.
Oh, no shit. My top track was Hey Gringo.
Free the Slave.
Hey Gringo, for me, it was just a funky break from his normal sounds. And my bottom track was I Walk on Water.
My Fair Lady.
I think that got a 5 for me. I think that was actually in the running for being one of my top songs from him.
And Hey Gringo took a second listen for me to realize that it was better than I thought it was. So
I'll take that. For me, this sounds more Black Keys-esque. Vocals still a standout from him, and at times very folk-inspired.
For me, this was Hozier with classic Southern rock edges. Also reminds me of Sturgill Simpson in places. Mm-hmm. Definitely a stronger effort than that A.B. album we covered, and it does more to set him apart from the artists he'd easily be confused with. A highly listenable standout effort of an album. My main concern with Kaleo remains difficulty differentiating him from a number of other great artists. Although it could be argued that this makes him great by default, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said that the first time that we covered him. You were curious to see how different he was, because he sounds like a lot of different artists.
Yeah, and this may be the best CD that I've heard so far this year, that's come out this year.
Nice, that's high praise, considering that, was it last year that, no, it was the year before last, that JoJo album.
Yeah.
I wonder what album you liked. Was it The Weeknd's After Hours? Was that last year?
I don't remember. There were a lot of CDs that came out last year. And we were doing the podcast. So
yeah, we listened to a lot of new music, which we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
All right, you trying to tell me that I need to make plans for a 1-year anniversary of the podcast?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying there might already be some things in the works, because...
Don't be heavily disappointed if I do absolutely nothing in advance of a 1-year anniversary.
It's fine. You are not the only you're not the only host of this show, and you do plenty of shit without talking to me first.
I heard it almost come out that I'm not the only male in the world who doesn't do much for certain anniversaries.
Oh, is that what you almost... Okay, all right.
Although in that department, in relationships, I am the bomb.
All right, well, your wife's not here to confirm that, so why don't we just move on to all the artists that we covered this past season?
Let's do it. Let's talk top songs.
Top song from the Black Keys, for me, was Gold on the Ceiling.
Weight of Love.
Moving on to Maria Mina, my top song was Leaving You.
I always liked that.
Moving on to the Foo Fighters, It's Always Everlong, Man.
Yeah, I agree there. Stop saying moving on.
Sorry. I don't know. You usually do this. I don't know how to do the segue. All right. Audio Slave, Heaven's Dead.
Show Me How to Live.
George Strait, I Can Still Make Cheyenne.
Hey Raven, Run is my top song by George Strait. Suck on it.
No, thank you. I'm not hungry. Moving on to Keith Whitley, It's On the Other Hand.
10 Feet Away.
Spice Girls, Too Much.
Viva Forever.
Ugh, I'm sorry. Not my bag, but hey.
You don't like Viva Forever?
Out of everything that we covered, Viva Forever is your song.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will say, in defense of yours, that I think it came down to too much Viva Forever or Goodbye. But Viva Forever...
Did you take one from every album?
No, I was torn on Spice World. Between the top track, it was either Too Much or Viva Forever.
Okay, well, anything is better than that last album that we covered. That's all I'm saying. So I'm glad you didn't choose Goodbye.
Not anything. It was a pretty good album.
Yeah.
Can we move on?
Yes, we can. In Sync, I picked God Must Have Spent a Little More Time on You.
Selfish.
That's a good one. The Cure, Pictures of You.
Push.
The Talking Heads, it was Once in a Lifetime for me.
Big agree. I agree.
Mm-hmm. You're sure the name of the song wasn't Big Agree?
Bigotry?
Sure. No. Bigotry.
Once in a Lifetime was also my top track.
The Carpenters, They Long to Be Close to You.
Heather. And that's the instrumental, so.
Okay. Herman's Hermits, The Most Beautiful Thing in My Life.
Wild Love.
All right.
Telling you, you're missing it.
Well, apparently I have to go back and listen to Hold On!
Yeah. Look it up.
All right. Stained, Everything Changes.
Epiphany.
Epiphany. I almost picked Epiphany. That's a good one. Our Lady Peace, Made of Steel.
Not enough.
DMX, Party Up.
Here we go again.
And Mystical, If It Ain't Live, It Ain't Me.
Bouncing Back.
Both solid songs. Bouncing Back, I really had to fight not to pick it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I picked If It Ain't Live, It Ain't Me because it was brand new and it's been stuck in my head.
So which 4 artists did it come down to for you for a winner?
Maria Mina, In Sync, The Cure, and Our Lady Peace.
We agree on 2.
Okay. What was yours? Maria
Mina, Keith Whitley, Talking Heads, and Our Lady Peace. Who won for you?
Maria Mina.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, she got a 4 from me, 13 fives, and her purchase value is $21.75.
So what about, you already just gave me your stats. I'm lost.
I did. What are your stats?
Average was 4.95, which may be the highest yet. Fives was 35, and purchase value was 36 of $37 worth of stuff that we listened to, yeah.
Okay.
And just so you know, in this next section, all of my tops for best and worst artists, it's all Maria Mina, so no need for me to repeat that.
You sound like me during the Panic at the Disco Battle of the Bands. Well, since we already know what Shane's best and worst artists are, my top average is Maria Mina, like I said, at a 4.0. My bottom average is Spice Girls at a 3.1.
Mine was actually DMX with a 3.79, man. Those skits, they'll kill you.
I know. They hurt him, but like I said earlier, I did not like that last Spice Girls album.
Okay.
Not a fan.
You're entitled to your opinion.
I am entitled. My top fives was DMX with 15, and my bottom fives was Herman's Hermits with 4.
Mine was Foo Fighters with 10.
How many? I assume Maria Mina was your top fives. What was it again?
35.
My top purchase value was DMX at $26.75. And my bottom purchase value was Herman's Hermits with $8.25.
See, mine was technically Herman's Hermits because they only had 2 albums.
2 albums, yeah.
But realistically, it was the Foo Fighters with $19.50.
Okay, all right.
Second chance bracket. People who may have won out if it had been any other week for them except for a strong artist that they went up against.
It would have to be DMX. His purchase value was runner-up. He got the most fives. The second highest average went to Our Lady Peace, but out of a 2 out of 3, I had to give it to DMX.
All 3 of mine were Stained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was pretty surprised by that, yeah.
Katie's going to love to hear that.
Yeah, like I said, they had an extremely strong showing. So what about perfect ratings or highest average for albums?
My highest average for albums is Blue Clear Sky by George Strait. I gave that a 4.3.
Damn. That's not all that high.
Well, we are talking about me.
I will buttress your opinion slightly with my own brand of ridiculousness. This season, I only had 3 perfect ratings. A Girls Spice World album and 2 by Maria Mina, Growing Pains and Weapon in Mind.
That's not that bad. We've had worse in previous seasons, so.
What about the highest purchase value?
Highest purchase value was Grand Champ by DMX, $9.75.
Mine was also DMX with It's Dark and Hell is Hot. It was $15.
What about most fives?
For me, it was Keith Whitley's Sad Songs and Waltzes. He got 14.
Okay. Mine was the Black Keys Brothers album. It got 8 5s.
Yeah, you can keep that.
I know.
What was your bottom album out of this season?
Forever by the Spice Girls.
Really?
I gave it a 3.0. I did not go below that this whole season. I was very, very surprised.
Okay.
But yeah, it's that Forever album.
Mine was the Foo Fighters self-titled album. It had 0 5s. I had paid $3.25 for it begrudgingly, and I gave it a 3.08 for average.
Whose win or loss surprised you the most this season?
Honestly, it was Audioslave beating out Foo Fighters. And also that both had fairly weak showings. I was surprised by that.
Yeah.
But I think the Foo Fighters were only weak because of that debut CD. What about you?
The Black Keys versus Maria Mina week surprised me the most, considering Maria Mina beat out all of these great artists that I have listened to my entire life just to take it all this season for me.
Bringing the pain.
I know. I'm definitely hurting from it, man. Which artist have you been listening to the most since the season started?
Our Lady Peace. This is definitely Our Lady Peace. I know my top track came from the Gravity album, but even since we recorded the show, I've listened to Happiness Is Not a Fish That You Can Catch 3 times all the way through, including the song I gave a 4.
The song or the album?
The entire album.
I've been listening to NSYNC and Our Lady Peace, so I can definitely agree with you there. Although I've been listening to their last album. I have
Burn.
Yeah. I was going to say, I can see the cover, the black with the orange balloon. Anyway. But yeah, that's what I've been listening to a lot. Did you genuinely dislike any of these artists? If so, which ones?
You know, I'm probably always going to be a no, but Audioslave and Foo Fighters tried my patience the most. What about you?
I also will say no, but I genuinely will probably not listen to Herman's Hermits again. So disregard what I said earlier.
Yeah, and that's potentially my new favorite artist of the genre.
I won't tell people not to listen to them. I'm just saying I don't know that there was enough there for me to actually give a shit to go back and listen to.
Okay.
What did you learn during this Battle of the Bands?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but that I want to rate my 5s on a separate scale. Like, go back and re-rate them, because 5 is usually the floor of what I want to listen to. So I feel like I could go through on like 6 to 10 and really narrow it down further. I'm not doing that.
I was going to say, you changing the rating scale?
No, it's just something I might do personally, just for shits and giggles, music dork.
Well, speaking of things to do personally, so our listeners are well aware that we both have Spotify's where they can find our top 10 lists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have taken it upon myself after every Battle of the Bands to make a season 1 through 4 at this point. Make a playlist for each season that actually has my top songs from each artist.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've been having that since season 1, but...
Well, you can go to hell.
I'm just saying.
I'm letting the listeners know that they're there in case they ever want to find all of my top songs from a season in one place.
It might be a really good way to gauge, listening back and forth, which artists you might like that we've listened to and which artists you might hate, but also whose opinion you'll lean more toward, whether it's me or Rayburn.
Yeah.
Rayburn or I.
And what I learned during this Battle of the Bands is I have so much more to learn and discover. This season was a really big season for me to learn about so many artists that I didn't know about. Maria Mina, like I said, taking it all for me this season. I learned a lot more about the Talking Heads. I had never even really heard of Herman's Hermits or Our Lady Peace, technically. I mean, I did know 2 songs, but there was so much that I didn't know. And for Maria Mina and Our Lady Peace to make my top 4, that's a pretty big deal. That's pretty high praise.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the deeper we go, the more that humbling experience continues, because I've known for a while there's so much music out there, and we're not even covering most of their full discographies when we go through.
Nope.
So it's still, and most people aren't doing this. They're listening to what comes out on the radio, or they're listening to songs from their childhood continually that they're comfortable with, and not venturing out. And so that's really really a humbling experience as far as your opinions go. It's good also to mention that these are just opinions. You're not going to agree with us everywhere.
We're not the experts.
No.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people, like, listening to a select number from each artist. But one thing that the rabbit hole I could not go down this week is I got curious and I was like, well, how many artists have we covered since starting the podcast? How many albums have we covered in total? And then how many songs? And I'm like, oh, my brain cannot compute. Mm-hmm. That's for like maybe I'll do that at the 1 year anniversary of Rated Radio, because I don't even have time to sit down and calculate all that at this point.
It's a lot.
I know. And I never would have done that had it not been for starting this podcast with you. So thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this with me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So which artists have you picked for the next Battle of the Bands?
I picked Lydia,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to be going up against Dia's Veil.
Okay.
Most people have probably not heard of either of these groups, and I will say at the outset that this is the first time since starting the podcast that I picked something I love, not something that I figured statistically would win the season for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I know of Lydia because of you, meaning I've heard the name Lydia. I haven't actually sat down and listened to any Lydia. Never heard of Dia's Veil. No idea, but I'm looking forward to it. I picked AJR.
Who I'm really not very familiar with at all.
No, they are a newer band made up of 3 brothers, and I also decided my artist this next upcoming season based off of Not to Win.
Okay. Good.
So I think we're in the same realm there, although I don't know who you have them matching up against.
Imagine Dragons.
Oh, it's gonna be a good week. That's gonna be hard.
And just for listeners who are confused at this point, because we talked previously about our picks going head to head, the problem with that is anytime we pick someone, our pre-made list gets all fucked up.
Yep.
We have to pull an artist that's already been matched with someone else and try to match them against. It just doesn't make sense. So those first 2 episodes is going to be Rayward's pick and then my pick, and we'll see how it goes.
I'm very excited. You know that it's going to be a good week for you, and I know it's going to be a good week for me. So the fact that we get to share a little bit into our musical preference and psyche a little bit.
Before we dig back into the who knows what the fuck all of y'all are sending at us, damn, there's some shit in that jar that I'm really looking forward to hearing. Don't let me fool you. I'm just joking.
Well, we have a whole nother season to do it all over again.
That's the finale for the season. Let's talk a little bit more about our
top 10 uplifting songs.
And then I think we have a giveaway to see too.
Yes, we do. I do believe we promised some a listener some free merch. So
anyone who gave us the top 10 is in this jar.
Yes.
As well as anyone who made a recommendation in the past before we started top 10. And all of your recs are still in our jar. So
once we do the drawing, we will reach out to you to get, sizing and where you would like it sent to.
Yep.
But anyway, before we get to that, let's move on to the second half of our list. I'll get started if it's cool with you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. For the first pick on the second half of my list, it's 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. She's credited as playing an instrument in this song. It's her fucking nails. Literally her fingernails.
That's kind of an interesting fact, actually.
There you go. She's credited as, it sounds like a typewriter. It's literally her grazing her acrylic nails back and forth.
Wow.
Anyway, that woman is a national treasure.
Yeah, I look forward kind of to hearing more of what she's got, because I honestly can't call myself a super fan or anything. I haven't heard a whole lot that I've loved.
She is hilarious. Like, I enjoy what I've heard of her music, but there's just something about her. When you watch her in interviews, she is so clever. And most people think she's some stupid, bimboed blonde that can't, think her way out of a paper bag. That is not the case.
I tend to be opposing to, you see somebody and you have that gut reaction of who they are and their depth level. I tend to not fall into those pitfalls or traps. I know she's a songwriter and a performer and everything else. So, again, there may be some stuff there for me, but I don't know yet.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. But that's my pick, 9 to 5 by Miss Dolly Parton. Shane, what is next on your list?
Twin Rocks, Oregon by Sean Mullins. I remember my dad's side of the family listening to this song and talking about how the old drifter in the tune would eventually be Billy, my father. And I do associate the softer side of the man with the character this song affords. What never got talked about is the fact that I often imagined myself as the other character. Once I realized my relationship with Billy would never be that of father and son, I enjoyed imagining how different his life would have been if he'd never known about me. If we simply wound up meeting on one of his better days when I was old enough to truly take on the world by myself. It's the only childish dream I still have of the man, having played a consistently warm role in my life. Sad though that sounds, said dream always helps me feel renewed. And second pick here is A Little Dive Bar in Dahlonega by Ashley McBride. I've mentioned this before, but life's difficulty level is often more extreme than I'm equipped to handle. And the longer I go along, the more I understand how happy I am, knowing that I won't be conscious forever in this mess of injustice we've tricked ourselves into believing is a highly desirable existence. Still, when it seems like I've played every hand I can afford, it's songs like this which keep me reminded that I have so much left to live for. I want to see my children fall in love. I want to sing as loud as I can beneath the stars with friends and family. I want to make it a point to revisit the things which have made me happiest in my limited time here. And so it is that I continue scraping together enough mental change to buy my way back into this wildly uneven game of life, hoping to feel a few simple glimmers of that sense of wonder I used to carry with me everywhere.
It's the little moments strung along throughout your life that keep you tethered.
It's a really hard thing to explain to people, too. It feels more meaningful. Everything feels more valuable. But that passion you have to fight the world, and it can make you very cynical. So it's hard to feel renewal when you're jaded. Anyway, what's your next pick?
Next for me is LA Devotee by Panic at the Disco. It's Panic at the fucking Disco. And this is Rayburn. You know why it's here.
Well, all right. Say no more, Monet more.
What's next on your list?
Oh, God. Did you just have, what's the film? That song, Say No More, Monet More, comes from Empire Records. That's what it is. It's Rex Manning's song, isn't it?
Yes, it is Rex Manning's song.
God.
You know what? I'm bringing Rex's lunch, Shane.
I bet you are.
I would have screened it, but, I don't want to blow your eardrums.
I would be curious to know which character you think you are, but we'll touch on that another time.
Oh, come on.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have... I really feel connected to Liv Tyler's character.
Okay.
Her struggle to always kind of be something that other people want her to be, and often missing some things that are right in front of her. So.
Well, there you go. I feel quite connected to Gina. So, a little whore. That's me. Or was. Isn't that her name in the film, Gina?
I think so.
Okay.
Renee Zellweger's character?
Yeah. My next pick is After the Storm by Mumford & Sons. I've had a handgun pulled on me at least 3 times that I can remember. And the last time it happened, I remember thinking how miserably sad the reasoning would have been if any of those incidents had resulted in my death or the imprisonment of the person on the other end of the weapon. This song was playing when I made it back to my car unharmed that last time, and I know that I spent a few years after that making sure that this was on every mix I had in the deck of my car. I'd turn the track on anytime I happened to be driving with someone as a passenger who I'd grown accustomed to bringing nothing but peace into my life. I'm ever more grateful for those people every time I hear this tune. It's easy for me to simply say that I don't enjoy having drama in my orbit, but my distrust of misunderstandings runs deep for good reason. People die every day over the pettiest shit imaginable, and I've no interest in being someone responsible for taking life in such a way. I know I'm not alone in that, and that's why this song gives me hope, if that makes sense.
It does. I love that our list of top 10 most uplifting songs has kind of been a more in-depth, serious conversation.
Yeah, it should be.
About internal struggle, which, they go hand in hand. That's one thing that, I explained to my sister who, deals with her highs and lows, that you cannot have the good without the bad. You can't have the joy without the sadness.
Well, I think the difference is the median level for a lot of people. I understand how a lot of people who struggle, they hit a low. I think a lot of people don't hit that low a lot of the time. They're just maintaining at a degree of contentedness. And not all of us are like that. So for you, it seems like uplifting is just something semi-light, that's going to lift your spirits some. And for me, when I was approaching this, I was trying to think about when I'm at rock bottom and I need something to get me out of it.
I get that.
So it is that my next pick is Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. I got my first car from my childhood friend Jason. He'd taken good care of the vehicle, and it had a more than decent sound system. The first person I picked up after getting the thing was my cousin Corey. The song was playing when he went to test out my speakers. One of the first things he always does when getting in someone's car. I just remember getting a sideways look of confusion, followed by the question of, really? Finally get you a ride and this is the shit you're driving around to? I never answered the question and he never tried changing the song. So yes, Corey, that's the shit I drove around to then and the shit I still drive to now. Thanks for commonly giving me a hard time and rarely meaning anything by it. The memory of silly moments like that keep me remembering who I am.
All right. Well, next on my list is Your Love Keeps Lifting Me Higher by Jackie Wilson from another movie. I believe it's Ghostbusters 1.
I can jam to that one.
Yes. You know where I'm coming from. Another one of those that you hear it and it coming from, don't want to say a simpler time, but you tell when you listen to it, this is from a different era. This is from a different time. And there's something so lighthearted about it. That's why it makes my list.
Cool.
Yeah.
I know where you're coming from. I really do.
I appreciate it.
I think I listened to the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack way more than most people ever should. So
was it Ghostbusters 1 or 2?
I don't remember. I'm thinking of, there's a Bobby Brown track and there's something by Howard Huntsberry and things like that on the album.
Which one was the one that they came in on Statue of Liberty? Was that number 1?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, I think it's number 1 because I think they realized that the goo or whatever liked to dance to that song by putting it in a toaster in the first movie.
Oh, the things you don't think you're going to talk about on this show.
I can't wait for this to end up in the caption of the episode. Anyway.
It might.
All right, what's next on your list?
It's a song called Rut by The Killers. I'm not always an easy person to live with, but my wife almost always makes it seem like a breeze. The only time I can ever remember us arguing so intensely that it looked like we were permanently on the outs, I stormed out of the house, got in my car, and drove away. I was in another county by the time this song started playing, and I didn't even make it to the first line of the first verse before the tears started pouring out of me. I felt so stupid for leaving. I knew it was just my ego getting in the way of us communicating openly again, so I went back home, intent upon delivering the gist of this song to her in the form of an apology, and I like to think I've been a little easier to live with since then.
Well, she still continues to live with you and spawn 2 children with you, so yeah, I would agree there.
Yeah, I walk around sometimes with this rain cloud over my head, and she still just seems so happy to be with me, so I feel lucky.
Good, you should. That woman loves you. I don't know why sometimes, but she does.
Hey.
I'm sure of it.
Hey. I don't even have a comeback, just hey.
Same could be said for me. So, apparently, from what Blue and Megan have said, we are 2 sides of the exact same coin, my friend.
I don't know that I like that comparison so much.
Why?
I like you as a person for the most part, but I don't see us as being seriously similar.
I think we're similar in a lot of ways. Okay. I definitely think our relationship dynamic and our romantic relationships is similar because of the type of people that we are and the type of people that we chose. Okay. So, and I don't think that's bad because you like my boyfriend, I like your wife, and they like each other. So it all works out.
So anyway, my second song was Dissolve by Daniel Johns. I think of Black Mirror's San Junipero episode when I hear this song, and I realize it's not played in said episode, but it totally fits in my head. The way that hour or so of viewing made me feel is the same way this tune makes me feel. Keeps me reminded that in all likelihood, I'm not aware of every possibility my future holds, that I shouldn't be so quick to give up on any bliss I'd love to follow. What's your next pick?
My next pick...
Or did you need to say something?
No, well, I was going to say that was a good-ass episode of Black Mirror, but it's Dela by Johnny Clegg and Sabuka. This was one of my recommendations in a past episode. This song always and forever will remind me of 2 things, George of the Jungle and my boyfriend, and the love that we have for one another coming from 2 different backgrounds, two different types of people and somehow finding a way to make it work every day.
You really be seeing Georgia the Jungle when you look at that motherfucker, don't you?
I do. I see a mixture of Brendan Fraser and Keanu Reeves every time I look at him. And I ain't mad at it. I ain't fucking mad at it. Well, I love that movie. He loves that movie.
Congratulations to you, Blue, for having it going on.
I'll make sure to tell him that.
So, next pick for me is From a Tire Swing by Lydia. This song is a reminder of the year I decided to quit the best paying job I'll probably ever have. When I told Megan I'd had enough of the big city life, I expected pushback, but she had apparently been feeling the same way about her own career path. That was 8 years ago now, and I remain overjoyed that I didn't decide to let money control every decision I make in life. This is your only life. Don't waste it serving things which don't serve your spirit in return.
True that. Facts, man.
True facts.
Facts.
Point blank, period. And next pick is Shadow Days by John Mayer. It's no secret at this point that I often feel like John Mayer's lyrics occasionally rip the thoughts directly from my head. And this example's a particular note because it speaks to realizing, honestly for the first time as an adult, that things would most likely continue to be okay for me. I've spent so much time stressed out or feeling down, and rarely was there ever any need to be so glumly heavy-hearted. I'm not a worthless teen anymore. I'm no longer confused about the kind of love I want in my life. I don't spend large parts of my days wishing I could undo the wrongs I've idiotically done to others. I am who I am, and I wouldn't want to be anyone else. That's a good place to have landed. I hope the rest of you get there if you're not there already.
Well, piggybacking off of Shane's last song that he talked about is my last selection for the top 10 uplifting songs list. It's Same Love by Macklemore featuring Ryan Lewis. It is Pride Month, and not to show my colors or anything, but be who you are, and you never know what someone is going through, the internal struggle that they're dealing with, until you really put yourself in their shoes, and most people will never know what that feels like. So, when you don't know what it feels like, listen to this song and it'll give you a better understanding.
Yeah, I think we might invite a lot of negativity by talking about identity issues from people who are just in a mood to be negative with regard to that. Mm-hmm. And if you're one of those people, we're not trying to make you feel bad about who you are or having been born the way that you are. Mm-hmm. It's just, there are a lot of things about me. I'm straight. I'm white. I'm a male. Mm-hmm. You know, I have places in my life where the deck is not stacked against me. It's not to say that there aren't other areas where they were. It's just that I've found opportunity that I think other people would not have gotten. And it's important to recognize that I'll give you an example. I went into the restroom the other day and there was toilet paper in the restroom. Mm-hmm. I opened the drawer and I have toothpaste, and there were times as a child where I didn't have that. And I knew a lot of people who had that even less than I had, you know, people who had to use the restroom outdoors and things like that because they just couldn't afford toilet paper, people who went without meals. There's so much going on. And I think we all have to be coming together and wanting better for the majority, not for the majority, wanting better for all people, not just the kind of people that we are. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why it, you know, my song makes this list. It's Pride Month and I want people to be proud of who they are. But at the same time, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add on. You have no idea what the person next to you is going through. You can't put yourself in their shoes, but you can at least try and give them the patience and understanding to hear their struggle, to try to put as much as you possibly can to put yourself in their shoes and sympathize with them a little bit. So that's what I wanted people to take away with at the end of my list. This is one of those songs that lifts me up to hopes of better tomorrows for those that struggle.
I can get behind that. So my last two picks, Run to the Water by Live. One of my favorite humans once told me she wanted this song played at her funeral. As someone who's always been wildly moved by its melodies and message, I take a lot of comfort in knowing that someone I have so much respect for also loves this song in the extreme. The fact of it leaves me feeling less alone in the world whenever I hear it now. And then my last pick is Be Still by the Fray. This may sound a bit morbid. Sorry about that. I remember being so moved by this song that it made the wedding reception playlist. Pretty sure I'd convinced myself this was because the track felt like a meditative listening experience, with regard to the soothing nature of cementing such an intimate relationship. And it still holds true, but it wasn't until I was slow dancing with my wife at the reception that I realized what the sad edges of the song bring to mind. And that's everyone I love who couldn't be there that day because they're no longer living. It was recognition that those people are still alive inside my head, and that eventually my wife and I will join them in the stillness. Eventually, all of us will. Knowing that is uplifting to me for reasons I don't know how to explain.
Well, this has been our top 10 uplifting songs.
God damn.
And Shane is about to join those people that are no longer with us right now.
It sounds like it, doesn't it?
A little.
All right, so let me get this draw out of the way.
All right.
And give our lovely listeners something in return for being so good to us. All right, blind draw.
All right, so what do we got?
Sarah. Is one of my childhood friends, and I think she was one of our original recommendations, so that's actually pretty fitting.
Coming full circle.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah. So congratulations on your free Rated Radio merch. We'll be reaching out. Thank you so much again for being such a devoted listener to our podcast. We appreciate you and every one of our listeners that continue to listen to our stupid asses every day.
I love your stories too, by the way, Sarah. Seeing those, and I do see them. I'm not one of those people who just taps through everyone's stories really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost always watching the stories.
Like a creeper.
Well, hers are fucking hilarious. And they're actually relevant. Like, they let you know what's going on in her life. They brighten things a bit. It's
uplifting.
It's fitting.
Perfect.
Anyway, I'll be reaching out to you with regard to the shirt. Thanks for listening. And why don't you lead us out, Rayburn?
All right. That's a wrap on season 4. That's going to do it for this week and this season. Hit up our playlist to hear the songs we talked about. Get our full ratings, t-shirts, and bonus episodes at teespring.com/ratedradio and guide what we listen to by suggesting new artists for our jam jar. You can even send us voice messages on Facebook for a shot at being on the show. You could have the chance of winning free merch from the Rated Radio podcast by giving your recommendations every season. Your support is really what makes or breaks us, so thank you for listening and sharing. And until next time, fill your world with music.
And if you're out there listening, know that the most uplifting thing, at least in my life, is never a song. It's always you being in my life.